The month of June has come to an end here in the Royals franchise, and our Kansas City Royals are sitting at 44-38 on the year, which is still good enough for first place in the AL Central. They have themselves a 2.5 game lead on the Cleveland Indians, and the Indians are really the only chance that the Royals have to not win the division, not make the playoffs, if they just don't want to make the playoffs, because that's not what we're trying to do here. I mean, if we do, obviously, I guess it's okay, but I mean, we're not going to win anything in the playoffs, and we're not trying to, but the Cleveland Indians are the only team that has a chance to make the playoffs in the AL Central aside from us, because everybody else is complete garbage. The White Sox are currently sitting in third place, and they're 13.5 games back. They're already out of it. Like, they're just not. They're not gonna win the division. We're just starting July, and they can already cancel their season. Same with the Tigers, and same with the Twins. But since this is the June recap, what does happen in June is the MLB entry draft, so that is the big focus in this episode. Next month will be, obviously, the trade deadline recap, as well as just the month of July, but mainly the trade deadline is next month. But this June recap is the MLB entry draft. So, in the first round, we had the 17th overall pick, and with that 17th overall pick, I was deciding between two players. One was a closing pitcher who would be ready sooner than the other guy. He's a right-handed closer to Pennsylvania, Steven Ramiro. These guys are both blue-chip prospects, so that means they both were 100% scouted. The game already had them in as 100% scouted. I didn't do the scouting on them. They were just already like that. So Ramiro was one guy I was looking at, and then the other guy was a shortstop, Stefan Vasquez, a shortstop out of Puerto Rico, can also play second and third. And since we're lacking on the middle infield depth and just middle infield for the future, because Whit Merrifield's probably not going to be staying around as the starting second baseman for too long, shortstop right now, we don't really have too many options in the middle infield area, so Stefan Vasquez, 18 years old, he was our first-round pick, and then after him, we're just going to list off a bunch of names who we picked. I'm not going to show you any of these guys' overalls, because that would just defeat the purpose of a prospect profile down the line. So these guys, also, the way they look, probably going to change, because it's just one thing I hate about this game, where the fake players look like fake players. They don't look like ball players. They don't look real. So I go through and just edit their appearance to where they actually look real. I don't mess with their attributes, obviously. I just mess with their appearance so they actually look like real people. The next pick was Michael Winnicka, a right-handed pitcher, 89 potential. Donnie Fitzgerald, left-handed pitcher, 82 potential. Eric Mulder, shortstop, 86 potential. Bert Stone, left-handed pitcher, 83 potential. Woody George, shortstop, 75 potential. Herb Clemens, catcher, 66 potential. Andres Guzman, outfielder, 72 potential, and Willie Herrera, outfielder, 66 potential. All these guys were signed to deals. You will see more about them as they get prospect profiles throughout the next season, because they don't actually get added to the roster until next season. That's how it's always been in MLB The Show. And now moving on to how our current team is doing. Through the league leaders, we have John Jay, who's actually doing pretty darn well with a 307 average, is 6th in the American League. Kelvin Herrera, 28 saves, is good enough for 3rd in the American League, still doing his thing in the back end of the bullpen. Jason Hamill's doing his thing as well, really upping his trade stock, or his trade value. I guess stock's also the right word, with a 2.84 ERA, which is 7th in the American League, and then a 2.5 WAR, which is 6th in the American League as well. He's just having a great season, and we should be able to get a pretty good prospect for him at the deadline from a team that is trying to push for a World Series and is willing to trade for a rental. Taking a look at the rest of the bats on our team, Mike Moustakas leads the Royals with 16 home runs. That's the most on the team. And 808 OPS is the second highest on the team. The first belongs to Jorge Soler, who has been, aside from Moustakas, our best all-around bat with an 826 OPS. He's only got 6 home runs, so his power bat isn't quite there with Moustakas, but it is... He is being an all-around hitter with an 826 OPS. He's hitting a lot of doubles, a lot of triples, 355 OBP as well, so he's getting on base a ton. Lucas Duda's doing his job, 782 OPS, 15 home runs, second on the team. He's definitely going to be able to get us at least a couple decent guys at the deadline. And then John Jay doing his job in the leadoff spot with a 3.68 OBP. Jorge Bonifacio, this is his first full month. He got called up like halfway through May, so he's basically played like a month and a half in the major leagues so far, and he has a 7.41 OPS with 5 home runs and 119 at-bats, so he's going to have a lot less at-bats than most of the guys in the starting lineup on our team, but he is putting up pretty good numbers. The OPS isn't like through the roof, like it's not insanely impressive, but I mean it's okay, I'll take it. I expect the guy to get better. He's still young, he's a big potential, he's improving, so I expect him and Soler both to be huge pieces in the middle of our order for years to come. There's also Alex Gordon, who is definitely hitting a lot better than he did last year in real life. He has a 7.31 OPS with 10 home runs. He's just, middle-of-the-pack type hitter for us. Nothing too special, but he does have a decent amount of pop for us this year with 10 home runs, which is on the upper tier of our team. Salvador Perez, still playing awfully. Still playing, just not good at all. 5.84 OPS, which is just, like I said, not good at all. Not what you want to see. Alberto Mondesi has been up for like a month now as the starting second baseman against right-handers, while Whit Merrifield plays against left-handers. And Mondesi is just not... He can't hit. He just simply cannot hit. He's got a 4.45 OPS, which is honestly the lowest OPS I've ever seen in this game from a guy who's at least played a month. Out of all my years of playing MLB The Show, I've never seen a bat as bad as Alberto Mondesi. And I get a lot of comments being like, hey, what are your plans for Mondesi? Even though I went over that in the prospect profile, or it's like, hey, are you going to leave a spot open at second, or trade Merrifield, or do something and leave a spot up for Mondesi? It's like, no, the guy can't hit. His future at best in the Royals organization is a utility infielder. A guy is going to play second, short, and third as just like a backup guy to go in there. He's a Ned Yost player. He can hit, he can bunt, he can field, he can run, he can swipe a few bags, but he can't hit. And that's not what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for a guy who's going to hit 187 for us every season. And it's not even like it's just his contact and power that are bad. It's also he has awful plate skills. His vision and discipline are both absolutely ridiculous in a bad way. So Mondesi, his future with the Royals just doesn't look too good as it stands right now. And into the bullpen, we've got the best guy in the bullpen, probably him and Kelvin Herrera just like could swap back as either the best or second best. Justin Grimm, the Grim Reaper, an 11.69 K/9 rate, 22 and a third innings pitch. He's got 29 strikeouts, a .81 ERA, and if you did notice, he did not have any numbers on his ERA until this recap. So it took him until June to allow an earned run. That's pretty ridiculous from Justin Grimm. He has been lights out for us at the back end of the bullpen as like an 8th inning guy or 7th inning guy. And you guys probably noticed in one of the episodes in June that I posted, Tommy Joseph was up. Jorge Soler was out for like a week or two. It was more like a week probably. So Tommy Joseph played a few games in the big leagues. He had 33 at-bats. He hit 2 home runs in those games. He could be the DH for us next year. He could just be like a depth first baseman / DH guy. But he is back down in AAA for us now, as there's not really any room for him on the roster because we have Bonifacio and Soler moving back and forth between DH because Gordon's in left, blocking a spot for one of them to play in the field. Obviously, John Jay's in center. Neither of those guys are center fielders in Soler and Bonifacio. And then first base is obviously Duda. And then once we trade Duda at the deadline, Tommy Joseph's still going to be blocked because Hunter Dozier is probably going to get that spot. You've probably noticed a lack of Cheslor Cuthbert as well. He's also down in AAA. I believe I sent him down like early in May, so he's been down for a while now in AAA, just doing his thing down there. It really what's hurting him is he can't play shortstop and second base. He's only a third baseman / first baseman. He's a corner infielder, and we don't need that right now. Right now we have a 3-person bench, so we've got a catcher, we've got an outfielder, and then we've got an infielder who can play basically all the infield positions. And even though Cuthbert is a good player, he's got good attributes, he's probably got a decent future with us, he's probably never going to be a starter for us. I mean, I'll say that now, but I mean, who knows, maybe he just explodes one year, and he's hitting like 300 with like 25 bombs for us, but As it stands right now, his future is probably just being like a depth, like third and first base guy if someone gets hurt, or if I decide that he's the better option at a position. But right now he is in AAA, despite him being a good player. He is good enough to play in the major leagues. It's just he's kind of blocked at all the positions that he can play. And now Ramon Torres. He is not hitting too well in AAA. This is a guy who's gotten a few shots in the major leagues in real life. I know he's been like a go-to utility infielder guy for Ned Yost in real life, but for this, he's been in AAA for us because Ryan Goins started the year as our utility infielder, and Torres hasn't been the best in AAA so far, but I don't want Goins in the major leagues. He's in AAA for us right now. I don't want Alberto Mondesi being our infielder utility guy, so what we're doing is we are sending down Alberto Mondesi, and Ramon Torres is coming up to the major leagues. So Torres, he's going to be our utility infielder, and then he could possibly, depending on how he plays, be our starting shortstop once I do trade Alcides Escobar at the deadline. And now moving into some of that trade talk for the deadline, I showed you guys my trade block screen and like who I had listed on the trade block and what I wanted for those, just as like a guideline sort of. Obviously, I'm not strictly looking for those certain positions, but those positions are generally what we could use. So number one, the guy who is 1,000% getting traded at the deadline, there is no changing my mind on this, it's going to happen. Jason Hamill, he's gone at the deadline no matter what, even if we're in first place by like 35 games, which is not possible, but you know what I'm saying, he's gone. Jason Hamill, he is being traded at the deadline. We're probably going to try to get a good prospect and probably like maybe like a throw-in guy as well for him from a team who's trying to push for the playoffs or trying to push for a World Series and has like an abundance of talent in the system and wouldn't be giving up their whole farm system for Jason Hamill. Nate Carnes is a guy who I probably would trade at the deadline because he is pitching quite well right now, and I could probably get like a few decent players, decent prospects from him. But since we are in first place, I can't go trading the entire team. That's why there's certain guys who I'm not going to be trading at the deadline. So Nate Carnes, he's just going to stay on the team. He's probably not going to be brought back for next season either. He's probably just going to be on our team for the rest of this year. I know that he's not eligible for free agency. He does not have enough service time in the major leagues to be eligible for free agency. But I'm still just probably not going to offer him anything, and he's just going to go into free agency as a guy who's not offered arbitration. Alex Gordon is a guy who I'm not going to trade at the deadline, but I'm probably going to trade in the offseason. I'm not 100% decided on that, but Alex Gordon is a guy who, he's getting up there in years. He has this year and then also next year in his contract. So, I mean, I don't have to trade him at the deadline to get something for him, which is why I'm not trading him at the deadline. Plus, we're also in first place. But I do want to open up that left field spot for other players. Like if I have Bonifacio in left and Soler in right, and then whoever I decide to have my stopgap center fielder while Khalil Lee is still developing as my outfield, that'll open up the DH spot for an opportunity to have somebody else there rather than just being Bonifacio and Soler moving back and forth. Lucas Duda, another guy who is 1,000% getting traded at the deadline. It's decided, it's happening. There's nothing you can say to stop me. It's going to happen. Lucas Duda is going to be traded at the deadline. What we're going to get for him, I don't know. We'll have to see what his value is around the league, but we are going to be trading him. Alcides Escobar, also a guy definitely being traded at the deadline. He's in the last year of his deal, just like Duda and Hamill. Escobar, once again, he's getting up there in years. He's not going to be a part of the future of this team. He's not even really my type of player. He's a guy who's going to get some scrappy hits here and there, and he's not going to have a high OBP. He's not going to get on base a lot. His OPS is not going to be through the roof. He's obviously really good defensively. He's like an old-time shortstop. He's like what people wanted from a shortstop in like 1994, but this is not 1994. This is 2018, and we are making decisions based on the actual year we are in. Ian Kennedy, also 100% being traded at the deadline. Obviously, Ian Kennedy's not very good, so we're probably not going to get anything good for him, but there probably are a few teams out there that are, like, desperate for pitching that we could give him to, and then maybe get, like, a C potential prospect for him in return. Reasoning for why I'm going to trade Kennedy is because he does have one more year. He has this year and then also next year left on his deal, and I just don't want him blocking a starting rotation spot. I don't want to just keep him down in AAA either. Might as well get something for him, so that's why I'm trying to trade him. And then an interesting thing with this Kansas City Royals team is we have Salvador Perez. Now, if you're aware, Salvador Perez in real life is signed through his 2021 season, or the year 2021. I believe that's his age, like 31 or 32 season. I don't know exactly what it is, but he is signed through 2021 in real life. In this, though, his contract is up at the end of the year, so we have to make that decision. I've said in last month's monthly recap that we're going to give him a qualifying offer, which means that if he does decline the qualifying offer, we get draft picks for him if he signs with somebody else. But we're not just going to give him a qualifying offer, we're also going to offer him like a 2-3 year deal and hope he accepts that, because Salvador Perez, I believe he's 27. We definitely don't want him just going anywhere. I know that he's having an awful season right now, and he is supposed to be a big bat on this team, but I mean, Salvador Perez, even though he's having a down year this year, I'm confident if we bring him back for multiple seasons, he's not going to continue to having OPS of below 600. And then also Salvador Perez, probably the best defensive catcher in baseball. Well, that's probably Austin Hedges at this point, but I mean, one of the best defensive catchers in baseball, definitely the most proven defensive catcher in baseball. Also, one of the better offensive catchers in baseball. He's not Gary Sanchez, obviously, but I mean, the guy is definitely going to hit a few bombs. His averages are probably going to be around like 260, 270, maybe even 280, but his OBP is never going to be much higher than that because he doesn't walk very much. He's not going to be a high OBP guy, which is a big thing with me. I like having guys get on base a lot. You want to look at OBP, you want to look at OPS. But I mean, that's just not who Salvador Perez is, but it's different than looking at like a shortstop or like a third baseman being like, oh, their OPS isn't high, because he's a catcher. And most teams in the major leagues are just like, oh, they're a catcher, we don't want them to hit anyways. We're completely fine with having a guy hit 001 on the season playing behind the plate for us 162 games a year, which doesn't actually happen, but you know what I'm saying, because they'd rather have a guy who can command their pitching staff. So if we have a guy who can hit a few bombs for us, 20 so bombs in a year when he's actually on a good season, and then also hit like 270 with a low OBP as well, I'm down with that. So we're going to try to sign him for like 2-3 years, added on to his qualifying offer that we're going to give him in the offseason. So Salvador Perez, I am going to go all out and try to bring him back. He is definitely a guy you can expect to see back for multiple years in this franchise. So with that being said, that is going to wrap things up here for this edition of the monthly recap. We have finished June. We are now moving into July. The next monthly recap you will see is going to be the trade deadline episode. You're going to see trades happen. What I usually do is when I do a trade, I show them before the episode where they happen. So like it'll be like a highlight video or something. I'll be like, earlier in the week, this trade happened, and I'll show the trade. Obviously, I'm not going to spend 4 minutes at the beginning of a highlight video talking about that trade. So you'll see the trade then, but you're not going to hear my reasoning and me go in depth behind these trades until the actual monthly recap happens. So keep that in mind. And with that being said, I've been your host, Jersey Born, and I'm saying goodbye.
He can play the honky tonk like anything, saving it up Friday night with the Sultans, with a song